After the disappearance of a loving father and husband from his home stuns his family, he would be found in the most unlikely of places. Join us today as we discuss the baffling case of David Glen Lewis.
Two,
So,
two,
um,
one. Let's get this show on the road. Come on.
hey guys, hope you enjoyed last week's episode. This week's episode is done by Akmal. Take it away.
I'm pretty sure I did last week's episode as well. So,
You're supposed to put it alternatively.
okay.
They don't know what goes down. Okay.
So, this one is like, it's a strange one. Okay. You have someone disappearing, found dead, and the circumstances and everything is very strange. Let's get into it. David Glenn Lewis. David Glenn Lewis was a 50-year-old attorney based in Amarillo, Texas. David was married and had a 9-year-old daughter. On January 28, 1993, David's wife, Karen Lewis, and their daughter decided to go to Dallas for a weekend of shopping. It was Super Bowl weekend and David wanted to record the match on his VHS, so he decided to stay home while the pair went to Dallas. When Karen and his daughter returned to their home the following week, on the 31st, David was nowhere to be found. His watch and wedding ring were on the kitchen counter. There were fresh turkey sandwiches in the fridge and clean laundry in the dryer. His car was missing as well. Nothing looked out of place, and so Karen thought that he had just gone to work or was out watching the game somewhere. One day later, his wife reported him missing. Police immediately launched a missing persons investigation. The next day, his red SUV was discovered parked outside the Porter County Courthouse, which was notably only 10 miles from the local airport. Inside the car, police found David's driver's license, credit card, and in places where Karen said he usually kept them. This discovery caused even more suspicion as it was uncharacteristic of David to have left his belongings in the car and vanish. Karen remembered her husband telling her that his life was being threatened and that he feared foul play. His family, who described Lewis as caring and kind-hearted, corroborated Karen's testimony, adding that since David had been an attorney and a former Moore County, Texas judge, this might have made him enemies. He was also due to testify in a high-stakes lawsuit involving his former law firm, Ham, Irvin, Graham and Cox. A wealthy client was suing the firm for an alleged conflict of interest. Although David no longer worked at the firm, he was supposed to give a deposition in Dallas the week after his disappearance. David was determined to unveil the misdeeds of his former law firm, telling his father, "I'm going to tell the truth, whoever it hurts." These leads unfortunately did not materialize into anything. A few months later, police had discovered plane tickets that were purchased by David the weekend he went missing. One ticket from Los Angeles to Dallas, purchased on January the 31st, and another from Dallas to Amarillo, purchased on February 1st. It is believed that he had pre-purchased return flights to each location, although it is unclear if he had used the tickets or not. In 1993, there were no direct flights from Amarillo, Texas to LA, so a stop would have been made to Dallas to get to LA. Due to the relaxed nature of pre-9/11 airport security, passengers were not required to show ID when purchasing tickets. It was entirely possible to purchase a ticket on an alias or a fake name. People have postulated that this is what David had done, when he bought tickets for a flight from Amarillo to Dallas, and then from Dallas to LA, concealing his identity on his flights there. David might not have seen it significant to conceal his identity on the way back, hence why he didn't use an alias for the flights back. By this point in the investigation, detectives had gotten enough evidence and eyewitness testimony to create a timeline of David's whereabouts during the weekend he went missing. On Thursday, the 28th of January, David left his work by noon, claiming to be sick. On Friday, the 29th, he was spotted by a friend in the Southwest Airlines terminal, rushing through with no luggage. On Saturday, $5,000 were deposited into his account, and a neighbor spotted his red SUV at home. On Sunday morning, he was spotted outside the Porter Courthouse taking photos of his car, and on Monday morning, a cab driver claimed to have driven a man who fit the description of Lewis from a hotel to a Dallas airport. The cab driver described the man as nervous and told the police he had paid him with fresh $100 bills. It was believed that David had spent the night of the 31st in the hotel in Dallas. A unique inconsistency arises from this timeline. If David had wanted to record the match on the 31st, he would have had to take a cab from the courthouse, where he was spotted the morning taking pics of his red SUV that would eventually be found there. The game was going to start at 5:30 that evening. Allegedly, David had planned to record it, and freshly made sandwiches were discovered by his wife later that night. A VHS tape can record 4 hours of footage, and the average football match is 3 hours long. Why would David have made the effort to take his car to the courthouse to take pictures of it, and then leave it there if he had planned to record the match? Why vanish before the recording is over, leaving freshly made sandwiches and everything you have? This is of course assuming that the VCR did not have an auto-record feature that would allow David to start recording at the predetermined time. Unfortunately, confirmation of this minute detail has not been made public, making it unclear whether he had left that morning or later in the evening. Even with all the evidence, nothing was leading the investigators anywhere, and the case went cold. The search was concluded after 11 months, and no major breakthroughs were made. While David's wife was reporting him missing in Amarillo at 10:30 p.m., some 1,600 miles away in Yakima County, Washington, several people spotted an individual on Route 24 near Moxie, several miles from Yakima Airport. The exact location is unclear. One source claims the individual was lying down by the road, while another claims he was walking along the center of the road, but either way he was somehow along the road in a precarious manner. Motorists turned around to stop other drivers to warn them of the individual, but when they returned back, they found the individual deceased. Police arrived to find the body belonged to a middle-aged man. He had been dressed in military-style clothing and work boots. An examination found no traces of alcohol or drugs in his system from those that were tested for. Investigators believed him to have been the victim of an accidental hit-and-run. A Chevrolet Camaro was seen leaving the scene around the time of his death. The man had not been carrying any identification while he was killed, and his identity was unknown. In 2003, 10 years after John Doe's body was found in Yakima County, a Washington patrol detective named Pat Ditter read a newspaper series entitled Without a Trace about missing persons cases. Ditter, a stickler for detail and a dedicated detective, read in the series about the flaws in missing persons investigations, and particularly flaws in the NCIC's, the National Crime Information Center's, computer system at the time. Inspired by the thought that possible identities for unidentified victims may have fallen through the cracks of computer databases, Ditter took to Google and inputted characteristics related to about a dozen cases, hoping to find missing persons cases that matched their descriptions. Within a week, police finally had a breakthrough, a list of potential victims who roughly matched the description of the Yakima County John Doe. One in particular, a Doe network entry for David Glen Lewis, complete with a picture of the missing man, caught Ditter's eye. The picture of David was strikingly similar to one Ditter had of the John Doe. though he was put off by the lack of glasses on the John Doe's body. After looking into the evidence found alongside John Doe's body, Ditter discovered that a pair of glasses had in fact been found. Ditter went to access the personal effects found with John Doe's body and was able to find the glasses, wrapped up in the military style clothing he had been wearing when he was killed. Now believing the connection between John Doe and David Glen Lewis, while maybe more than a coincidence, Ditter got into contact with Amarillo police. He later sent them items that could be used for DNA analysis. One of the boots the victim had been wearing, and a tissue sample preserved since 1993. David's mother, Esther, provided her own DNA sample to test against the unidentified man. In October 2004, 11 years after he went missing, David Glen Lewis was positively identified as the deceased man found on Route 24, 1,600 miles away from his home. It is unknown why David would have headed to Washington, and nobody has been able to offer any insight into a connection he may have to the area. Alright, so that was the case, the David Glen Lewis case.
What stood out about this to you? About this case?
What stood out to me was that this man, who seemingly has a normal life, a kid, a wife, a house, all that, he's like your average Joe. He goes missing. They find his body 1,600 miles away from his home. The circumstances are crazy. Like he's a lawyer and he's going through this high profile case. And he's talking to his wife about maybe he's being threatened, this and that. And then he goes missing. And they find his body 1,600 miles away. He's wearing clothes that he has no association with. Why is he wearing military clothes and all this? He's found on the side of a highway. He's just walking. And then a few people see him walking. And the next few people see him dead. They find no drugs, no nothing in his system. Like, what happened, bro? That's what stood out for me.
Did the police look into his workplace and everything in regards to the case that he was handling?
They did,
Was
but
there no-
nothing of value came out. It was kind of a dead end. Not to say that there was nothing there. Maybe there is, and we just haven't seen it yet, but they didn't find anything. Texas and Washington, I think, are at the opposite sides of the country. Like, Texas is in the southeast, and Washington is like northwest. So, like, literally opposite side of the country to find it. Crazy. What did you think?
I'm still processing it. He had no previous mental health issues or anything of that sort, right?
I don't think so. I couldn't find anything like that mentioned. I mean, there's no evidence of foul play on his body. I'm not even sure what the cause of death was.
Was there no post-mortem exam done?
There was.
And?
I don't know. I couldn't find anything on it, which was strange. I don't know.
So how did they rule out his death?
I don't think they have. I mean, he's dead for sure. We know that, but we don't know how. What's also crazy is that we don't even know, just the circumstances around his death with the VHS and everything. The minute detail of it being either an automatic recorder or a manual recorder, which would completely change the timeline. Because if it was an automatic recorder, then there is the possibility that David might have left right after he took the photos in front of his SUV in front of the courthouse. But if it was a manual one, then he would have had to go back home and then start the recording. And they found the recording, so it's been recorded, but we don't know whether it was a predetermined one. And I couldn't find it. I'm pretty sure the police know, but I couldn't find anything on whether it was a automatic recorder or a manual recorder. So yeah, it changes the game, honestly, whether it was an automatic or manual one. Also, why was he taking photos of his SUV? He was acting strange. Why spend the night at a hotel? Why like make sandwiches? Like you look like you're ready to watch the game, but then you don't watch the game. Something sudden must have happened.
Maybe he got like a. Did they like go through his phone, like phone records or anything?
This is 1993, so no,
Oh,
I don't think so. I don't imagine a law firm. I don't know. I mean, you probably know better than this, but I don't imagine a law firm sending out a hitman on a potential witness.
no, it's risky.
That's omega risky. Like, why would that could ruin their reputation if they got out?
I don't know. I feel like maybe everything just happened like on the spur of the moment. Like he might have been preparing himself to watch the game, got an unexpected call or something, and he just, I don't know, and then he felt threatened or something.
Yeah, that must have been what happened.
I don't know. I feel like that's the only explanation. But then the fact that we can't find out his cause of death and all that, and it feels like there's a loophole somewhere.
I have to say, I don't know whether they have found his cause of death or not, but I just couldn't find it anywhere. So people suspect it's a hit and run.
Yeah.
Like, but then if you say it's a hit and run, like that makes it out to be like an accident. And then it doesn't make sense. What was he doing wearing military style clothing in the middle of
Maybe
Washington
it's
State?
disguise.
Yeah. Why walk on the side of a highway? He's a lawyer. I'm pretty sure he's stacked with cash, right? I mean, he
And
had
maybe
$5,000.
a low profile.
I don't know, man.
Where was
Crazy.
his vehicle parked?
His vehicle was a red SUV. I don't know exactly what it was called. It was found parked exactly where he was taking photos of it.
Like he dumps his vehicle, decides to walk on the highway. It just doesn't add up.
He was walking on the highway all the way in Washington, and he dumped his vehicle in Texas. So, yeah.
Why take the highway? Highway is risky.
I don't think he walked all the way to Washington. No.
Yeah, but like,
I don't know how he got there either. Did someone bring him there? Did he take? I don't know.
and throughout this entire thing, his wife and his daughter were in a different state, right?
No, I think they weren't in a different state. They were in the same state, but they were in a different city. It's also interesting detail. Maybe he sort of faked his disappearance or something. I don't know.
To keep his family safe,
Yeah.
but he turns up dead.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate that, he goes missing and then they find his body 1,600 miles away and it's not even identified till like 11 years later. Like, the daughter hasn't seen her father for 11 years and then she finds out, oh shit, they're dead. And like all the hope and everything maybe they were holding out, that's all gone. Unfortunate, man. Unfortunate case.
Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Stay tuned for next week's episode done by me, which is going to be epic. And adios.